You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers!
Today's guest is author Annie Mare, here to bend hearts and timelines. Her debut, Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon, is equal parts sci-fi, sass, and soul. Grab your helmet and your hairbrush. This is one interdimensional ride you won't forget. Please put your hands together and welcome Annie to the show.
Thank you so much, Annie, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza, where we are going to talk about your delicious book, Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon. I've got so many questions. But
Good.
Before we get started,
Yes.
we're going to toast to an amazing show.
Yes. Here we go.
Oh, now tell me about that mug. Is it handmade? It looks
So
delightful.
this mug was given to me by my college roommate, and it's never broken. So I feel a little away about it because it survived for so long.
Now, question.
My birthday. Yeah.
Have you done things to it that it should have broken? Because the fact that you let me know it's never broken means
Right. No, I think it's like infused with something that keeps it together, sort of like me, despite all of the treatment, stays together.
it stays together.
Yeah.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Man, we're going to have fun. Thank you for joining me.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about you and your book and what drove you to pen such an amazing book.
Well, this book it really started with did you hear that bong? Oh no. It really started with a feeling. I wanted to be able to really capture these common human feelings that we have, which are like that we believe in despite all evidence to the contrary, like things like love at first sight, things like the way somebody feels like home when you first meet them or get to know them, like the way that you feel like you've done this before or you're getting another chance. And so these very emotional and maybe sort of more spiritual feelings or things that we assign to faith belief versus evidence, and wanted to find a way to write about them that actually grounded them in real possibility, like in like the natural world and how the world really works, and to find an explanation for them. And so that was what led me to this novel. I mean, I definitely knew I wanted to write kind of like an epic love story and like a love letter to the queer community and the kind of families that they make for themselves. But I had thought going in that the sort of time travel-y multiverse part of it would be smaller and more manageable.
Like you're singing.
But when I got into it, I realized, no, I think I'm just, I've done all of this reading about multiverse and multiverse theory. I'm just going to kind of like dive into it. And then, I give all credit to my editor, S.C. Soga, because without her, this, she definitely reeled me back like quite a bit on the sciencey stuff. and so that I could get at those feelings. But yeah, that's like where it started. It was one of these books where I would love to explore those feelings that
Yeah.
we all share that are hard to define and hard to explain and don't necessarily have evidence. But what if there was evidence for
Yeah.
those feelings? Yeah.
What was the most difficult feeling to dissect and pen that you yourself had not yet really grasped?
Yeah. I think that that was it was I found it very difficult to pin down that feeling of um like what is happening right now
Mm,
feels like not just faded, but something that is familiar.
mm-hmm,
So, like kind of several levels above deja vu.
mm-hmm.
So more like I recognize what's happening right now. Like I feel it inside of my body, even if I can't explain it. And like that is the thing that is telling me that this is right,
Yeah,
that like we have landed and and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
yeah.
So I found that hard
And I
to,
love the phrase that you used earlier. You said that feeling of home in a space that you shouldn't recognize, right? But
yeah,
you feel like you're home. And
yeah,
that is so powerful.
yeah.
So I have
Mhm.
developed some questions for
Okay.
you about your book. And please hold up the copy because I had the
Okay.
galley copy. My copy is en route. I am
Okay.
loving that. Such a
Yeah.
throwback
Yeah.
to,
Oh, wait. And the spine I thought is beautiful.
oh, yes,
And the back treatment, can you see that?
yes. Now, how much input did you have in the cover design?
Well, how it started was um Tressa Faye, the main character, has a hair salon, and she's a very in her body, grounded person who feels a lot of connections to her mom, who was, like a 90s girly, like doing the scene. And so, um, and is likes the old music, likes the cozy. And so she has the salon that has that more like cozy vintage vibe. And that conversation with my editor and my agent, we were just sort of thinking about how, because it is like a more approachable, like witty look at multiverse, like maybe it should wink at like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yes.
like that kind of treatment. So that's sort of the idea we had. And honestly, they knocked it out of the park. Like when I got the first sketches back, like I could have cried. Like
Yeah.
I've never had such care demonstrated by a publishing team to really get it right. So it's been super fun, that whole process of production.
Let's talk. And I know I said I've got questions in, and I'm going to get to them, I promise. This is
Yes.
like in this space. What was it like when you first started writing this story and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to have fun with this. I am going to stretch myself. I am going to step out of my comfort zone. I am going to delve into the taboo, if you will, of emotions and experience and time and space and distance and love and all of these things. What was it like when you got that yes to something that was so personal to you?
Well, when I first drafted, it was one of the most difficult books I'd ever drafted. And it went to my agent. The first thing she said was, "This is a beautiful mess." And she was
Oh,
absolutely right. Um, And so, and had some like wonderful feedback. I dove into it again. And then we're kind of trying to figure out what's the strategy for this because it's pretty different. And she's like, well, like we know editors who might be looking for something different, like might be wanting to, um, you know, take a look at something like this. And so instead of doing the regular thing, which is more putting a book out on submission, out wide, like doing that whole process, she very strategically reached out to editors that, you know, she had had conversations with that made her feel like they were really could be connected to the story. And so, and the one that came back very interested was Essie at Ace, which is Penguin Random House. And Ace and Berkeley are kind of sisters. Ace does sort of like speculative fantasy kind of stuff, and Berkeley has all the romance and mystery kind of stuff. And she has one of the best reputations in the industry. She is very smart, very she really knows how to find great stuff, like if you're familiar with Kimberly Lemming.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I had
Who
Kimberly on. Yes.
Oh, she's fantastic. Her stuff is like bananas and romantic and like crosses genres all over the place.
All
And
over.
yes, and Essie is her editor. Like that's kind of her vibe. And so she looked at it. She was also like, yes, but before I go to the table, I want you to revise it,
Yeah.
which is fair. This is a hard book to get right. So I did another revision and then got that yes. And it was kind of unbelievable, honestly, because this definitely was a book that I wrote without necessarily the faith or expectation it would find a home. It was really a book I wanted to write to see if I could,
Yeah.
and did stretch me and cause a lot of tears. And I have no idea how much revision it went through. Like I wrote and rewrote so much. And I needed a lot of self-confidence propping up from my wife too, because you just get to that point where it's like, this is just, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
And she's already did it. Just keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's special to me in that way, very special to me in that way.
How proud of you are you with the stretching and the stepping outside of because it's one thing to stretch within your comfort zone. People automatically assume because something stretches you that it takes you outside of your comfort zone. I'm a Gemini and I can stretch and still be well within my comfort zone, right? Like, but
Yeah.
stepping outside of that comfort zone and stretching are like two drastically different things. How proud of you are you?
Well, I'm very, it's so hard, right, to find that kind of self-confidence. But I am proud because like when I think about, I've never not wanted to be a writer. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do with my time. And when I think about those first attempts to write novels and the first novels I wrote when I was 13, 14, 17, I was where I had all the confidence
Yes.
that everything I was doing was amazing and whatever. Those books that I were writing were much more like these books than other things that I have written and published.
Normally, I'll ask an author, what would what would their today self say to their younger self? But I want to know, what do you think your younger self, who was brave enough to pen such quirky stories, say to you today?
I think that that person would, first of all, I think they would be relieved that I got here. because it was not an easy road to here. And there was a part of me that knew it wouldn't be an easy road. And so that I got to here to this, I think they would have been, I think they would be very excited to know. And I also think that she would just want me to keep going and be probably pretty impatient with any idea that I could be held back or impeded by anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so if hair could talk after visiting Multiverse Hair Salon, what scandalous secret would it spill from another dimension? If your hair could speak, what would it tell us?
After visiting the Multiverse Hair Salon,
Yes.
well, if I'm in the world of the, I'm trying to think. If I'm in the world of the book and Tressa Faye Robeson is cutting my hair,
Yes.
I think, I mean, first of all, the secret it would share is that I had difficulty keeping my eyes to myself instead of on Tressa Faye.
Uh-huh.
Like, if, flirty embodied Tressa Faye. But I think though also it would just be like the relief and like the finally of knowing that I can completely submit to this woman and that she will find for me like that haircut that allows me to express myself, express my essential gender, like express my queerness, like uncover what I'm self-conscious about and heal it, because that is her whole thing. And I think my response to that would be utter relief.
Yeah.
So yeah. So crushing and relief is probably what I'd say.
Now, let's be
Yeah.
honest. What's harder, finding love across the multiverse or getting a good trim from a stylist who actually listens?
Oh, definitely getting a good trim from a stylist that listens. 100%. One of the stylists who inspired Tressa Faye, because my aunt was a hairstylist. So I grew up being experimented on and all of that kind of stuff with, a hairstylist and seeing that world and seeing the kinds of things that she did. And, she was one of those people who would go to the nursing home and set everybody's hair. And, she's very hardworking and artistic. But then when I was writing this book, I was, looking at a lot of social media accounts of hairstylists, especially queer stylists, sort of re-entering that space. And also I was inspired by my stylist, Juniper, I'm going to plug for her. She's at Baby Bang Salon in Marquette, Michigan. So she left me because she was here in Green Bay. But she was probably the first I've had that really was that could listen to me, could listen to my hair, could, like approach that space with utter acceptance, who knew the right amount to talk and not talk, and who had the skills.
Yeah.
And I think rare. I don't, all of us, when we find that person who can do it, want to figure out how to lock them down forever.
Yeah.
So
Now, going back to your childhood with the aunt who was the hairstylist, what was the craziest perm cut style that you ever had to endure?
well, I mean, her daughter, who's my age, I think had to endure more than I did. You know, at one point she had like a blue streak, the whole thing. But there was actually, so my hair is very curly,
Uh-huh.
and um and it's difficult to cut curly hair. And so she had this idea that she could sort of hermit into like more like in control sort
Uh-huh.
of curls.
Uh-huh.
And this is her experiment. Um, but yeah, it's not good. The result was not okay. And I don't know how many people have curly hair who also have to try to grow out a perm that was with rods. It was is a disaster for some time after that.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I pictured, a little curly pearl on your poor little hair. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh. Which salon service in the book would get banned in our universe immediately, and which one would become an overnight TikTok sensation?
I think what would be banned is the hair washing scene. And in this book between Trust Bay and Merrill, that is not on anybody's license to do in a hair salon. And what would be a TikTok sensation is guys gender affirming haircuts, which we learned that in every universe is a banger haircut. So
Nice.
yeah,
I love that. If your main
yeah.
character was stranded in a parallel universe run entirely by sentient flat irons, what would their survival plan be?
I think that they would probably, so because we have Meryl and she is an engineer, I think that she would be very aware that heat is a type of energy that creates change,
Uh-huh.
and would probably very quickly figure out that everybody needed to use the collective heat of their flat irons to create a change to pop them into the correct universe.
I love how you rationalized that sucker. Even you could not believe the words that were coming out of your mouth.
No, I couldn't. Yes. So
Oh,
that's what I think.
that was an
Yes.
Academy Award answer. You're like,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank
Would you
you.
rather have a hairbrush that predicts the future or a
Oh.
shampoo that reveals past lives?
Mm, 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 mm. It's the hairbrush is tempting,
Hmm.
but I have an anxiety disorder and I feel that I would abuse it horribly. That is not a power I should have. So the shampoo one I feel would just be interesting. And if I could get in the shower and every time I wash my hair, um, revisit some past life, I feel like I'd be set for novel ideas forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. What inspired this hilarious cross between intergalactic romance and salon chaos? And be honest, were you
Mhm.
under the hair dryer when the idea hit?
I actually, it was that, when we were all at home during the pandemic and people were using social media so much, all of us had kind of our pet platforms that we got into, like whether it was sourdough or whatever.
Yeah.
And the ones that I kept gravitating towards were these hairstylists who were in a terrible position because their whole career,
Yeah.
their livelihood depends on working with people,
Hmm.
and they were sidelined for a period of time. And so many of them were so creative. They were doing social media where they were teaching their, like creating content to teach people how to cut their own bangs, um, like doing the hair of the people that were in their pod, you know, kind of their safe group, talking about how they became stylists and what was important to them. There's so much creativity that happened at that time. And I just, there was something about that I found very remarkable. And you know, plus it's, I think, you know, I've never not thought it was fascinating to would just watch the transformation that happens in a hair salon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like kind of the, for me, it was the perfect setting because a hair salon is a place where connection happens between strangers, between like people we love, like people cry there, people
Yeah.
confess, you know,
Yeah.
people like talk about their lives. They might talk to their stylist about something they don't talk to about anybody with anyone else in their lives. And the whole point of it is transformation.
Yeah.
It's go from one state to another.
Mhm.
And so to me, that seemed like such an obvious place for people to connect and like reconnect and transform. And I feel like it's one of those places that's particularly important to marginalized
Yeah.
communities, um, because it may be the only place that is willing to um, like help you express like
Mhm.
how you want to feel beautiful in a way that, you know, your, you know, I don't know, your fast cuts place and
Right.
the mall never ever would.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and that's something that's true, you know, for the queer community. And, you know, it's sometimes the first step that people have when
Mm-hmm.
they transition,
Yep.
you know, when they're in their like journey expressing their gender. It might be their first stop to try to
Mm-hmm.
see like how they feel. It may be the place where, you know that they need to feel transformed, but they don't know exactly how. It may be a way to flag to other people in the community that they're queer. So to me, it's sort of that, that was, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
and that is so beautifully said because you're so right. That is usually that first step, right? That first outward saying, "This is me." And so I
Yeah.
fully understand that. If you had to pitch Cosmic Love at the Multiverse Hair Salon as a new reality dating show, what would it be called and who's hosting it?
Hmm. I think that um like it would have to be find your true love all over again in the multiverse dating show,
Okay.
because the idea would be like you already did this, you already found them, you already had either a spectacular breakup or they were the love of your life. And then the whole sort of premise is like you are just like these naked and alone shows. They're just going to drop you off
Yes.
somewhere. Other person's going to be dropped off. And then it's vibes. And you're just, have we been here before? How are you feeling? Yeah.
So who's the host?
Oh, the host. Um, I'm trying to think who would tolerate that level of shenanigans. Um, if I was going to pick a character for my book, it would be Lynn's,
Mm-hmm.
because she is, you know, that like the book says she's your mystical queer.
Yes.
And like every found family has to have a mystical queer, because who are you going to talk to about your crystals? Like who you have to have that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just kind of saw
So
RuPaul
yes,
floating
him.
around with the microphone.
Yes. I think RuPaul is a natural choice for sure. Yeah.
But even Ru would be like, you know what? I'm out of here.
We can figure it out.
Figure it out. Where are the listeners able to connect with you and engage with you and learn about what you have new coming down the pipe?
Okay, so anniemare.com is my website, and there's lots of places you can go from there, including it has my social media links, which I'm mostly on Instagram and TikTok. So those are probably Instagram mainly. And then also I have a Patreon with my wife who's also an author. And that's a fun place if you want sort of insider information that I'm not necessarily going to share on
Uh-huh.
main, and also content that isn't is exclusive to Patreon, so stories and serialized novels that are just for that crew. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Nice. So we've come to the part of my show that I have called Last Call, and it's rapid fire questions that you just get a
Okay.
chance to answer quickly. So do you need to take a
Okay.
sip?
Yeah, I'm gonna have some coffee.
Sure, that's coffee.
Okay.
Wink, wink. And that was a hairbrush. No. Okay, this one I'm going to skip because that one was quirky. Try
Okay.
okay. Time travel with oh, I do not know where this came from.
Oh, good.
Tell me if this one needs to be cut because I'm not trying to start no issues. Time travel with your ex or get stuck in an elevator with your nemesis.
Um, I think that I would rather get stuck in an elevator with my nemesis. Not actually, I'm on excellent terms with my ex, but traveling with them, I wouldn't time travel. I wouldn't travel. It's too much. It's like it's not something we can do successfully together. But if you're in a stuck in an elevator with your nemesis, like I would be there for the plots. Like, what's
Yes.
gonna happen?
Yes.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
going on? Favorite smell? Hairspray, alien pheromones, or freshly baked space croissants?
Mm. I do love hairspray smell. Like, I just, I was part of the Aquanet era,
You're too young to be
probably.
part of the Aquanet era.
Oh, no, I'm not. No, I am part of the Aquanet era. The
What?
bangs,
So big.
like, yeah, yeah.
Oh, did
And
you have the wings too? The Farrah
I
Fawcett
could
wings?
I could never get, no, that this was like that, I'm trying to do it where they had like the
Yes.
little ear and the giant bangs. Yeah, I could
Yes.
never get it right, to be honest. Like I was so glad when we got to grunge and and I could just lean into that.
Your hair was like, finally, my
Yeah,
people, my space.
yeah.
Finish this sentence. My multiverse twin definitely has better blank.
Mm, bras.
Good
They,
answer.
yeah,
Good
you
answer.
know, definitely.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
They're taking the time to get that done better than I am
Now,
because
are
the
they the
will is there.
Madonna points or are they like really high up in your face? I cannot
Just,
believe I just did that.
they're properly measured and supportive bras instead of just like whatever I get from the internet.
Yes.
Get it done.
Yeah. Last one. One
Yeah.
cosmic law you break if you knew you would not get caught.
Gravity.
Gravity.
I just have these days where I feel like I'm dropping everything. I'm breaking everything. Everything's too hard.
Except for
If I
the
could,
coffee mug.
yeah, except for this red coffee mug. Yeah, so if I could just float around my house and do my chores, that would be good.
Oh my God. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I had so much fun. I would come back anytime. Talk about whatever.
Thank you, including my bowl haircut.
It's beautiful. It's funny because it's actually the first thing I thought is like, oh, this is so great that someone with such great hair is going to interview me about this book. And then I just, crashed out there.
What normally it is in my afro. This is my travel hair. I've been on the road for like the past
Oh, yeah.
couple. Oof, yes. I've been traveling like I got money, which is crazy.
That's the only way.
The only way.
The only way.
Oh, geez. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This was awesome.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.